Steph Curry goes off for 50 points in the 71st edition of the NBA All-Star Game as Team LeBron wins 163-160. And we're here to break it down for you on the Hoopers Log on Season 8, Episode 23 on February 22nd, 2022. That is right, the second year birthday of my daughter. That's right, today she is 2 years old. And boy, what an absolute time to be alive, with her making things as hard as possible to put her to bed and making things as hard as possible in regarding to recording this episode. It has become an absolute doozy of a time to get to the point of recording this episode. And when you have parents or kids one day, as a parent, you will 1000% understand days like that. It happens a little bit more often than you would ever want it to, but the struggles of being a dad, the struggles of being a mom, it just comes with the territory. And if you can't expect the tough times, then you will be mortally shocked being a parent. Anyway, let's get back to the NBA basketball as the AllStar Weekend is over, and we are now 2 days away from starting the stretch run of the NBA regular season as we get to the final 6 to 8 weeks of the regular season as we come down the stretch of what is to be the 75th year of the NBA. What an interesting weekend. I mean, a ton of interesting things occurred. A ton of interesting things happened in regards to the world of basketball. And one of the biggest storylines over the weekend, I think, from a negative perspective, was the overall hype and lack of anticipation of the dunk contest, the one that Obi Toppin won to put together the dunk contest, where everybody sat back and made it seem like, okay, well, what can we do from here? What is the overall fix to the dunk contest? And over the last 10 years, there have been multiple instances where when we talk about the dunk contest and we talk about the overall excitement, what can we do to fix it, or does it even need to be here anymore? That conversation's been brought up multiple times in the last 10 years. And I think the interesting conversation that needs to be had with a lot of people is why aren't bigger stars, why aren't bigger names, why aren't more important people jumping into the dunk contest to make it exciting? This wasn't the worst dunk contest I've ever seen. I've seen worse. 2017 was really bad when Glenn Robinson III won. There have been multiple dunk contests in the past where you can completely forget, okay, why was it great? What was the importance? What was the overall impact of its ability, right? So the dunk contest, I think, for all intents and purposes and for all reality and for all understanding, needs to be moved behind the three-point contest. I think the three-point contest now should be seen as a contest that should be ahead of what the dunk contest provides. And seeing how it's all been put together and seeing how it's all been shaping out here over the last decade, the three-point contest has been the most exciting three-point contest in regards to of all contests of Saturday night in general, and it's been that way really for the last 5 to 6 years. And seeing the dunk contest and how it's overall been put together here over the years and over time, I mean, outside of a couple of guys, Zach LaVine, Aaron Gordon, you can name maybe a couple others, but for the most part, the dunk contest is something that I think has a real conversation piece behind it. And for the state of the NBA and where we are in the title of this episode, I think a lot of the things revolve around what has become the most important conversation piece to many of these guys and many of these players as we move forward down the stretch run of this season, on top of really kind of looking back on the 75 years of the NBA. And in the All-Star Game and the All-Star Game festivities, a lot of people sat back and complained about most of the excitement and most of the hype and surroundings of what NBA All-Star Saturday Night used to be. NBA All-Star Saturday Night used to be where all of the stars came out and would present their skill sets and their abilities to be put on full display. Well, the dunk contest really for the last 10 to 15 years, really in the last 20 years, if you really want to be dead brutally honest about it, has not had any megalodon superstars since going back to, 2000 when Vince Carter was there. I mean, if you really want to break it down, outside of maybe Blake Griffin, Zach LaVine, who else can I put up there? I mean, Jason Richardson at one point was a fantastic player, But if you really break down the dunk contest for an entire generation, there have not been any major superstars who have competed in the dunk contest. And I think one of the biggest problems the NBA has in regards to its culture, in regards to its overall hype and machine that it creates when it comes to excitement, is that when they put together these All-Star Saturday night competitions, the only top full-fledged flight players that are in the big-time competitions are the skills competition and the three-point contest, which is why I think a lot of people step back when they watch the three-point contest and they get excited because all of the big stars who are the best three-point shooters in the game decide to show out and show up. When the dunk contest becomes something of importance or becomes something that becomes talked about or becomes a normal routine, there is never any big time stars who jump in and do it. And let me just give you an example of this. So back when LeBron James was a rookie in the NBA, right, back in 2003, 2004, everybody knew when he was in high school his ability to dunk the basketball was at an all-time level, an all-time capability. And his ability to bring excitement to the game was bar none the greatest thing we ever saw, really, in regards to his excitement that he brought coming out of high school, right? He never competed in the dunk contest in the NBA. And I think what sprung from that, this is not because of LeBron James, this is an entire generation of basketball players. When you go back to before the 2000 dunk contest, there was superstars that would jump into the dunk contest or young superstars that would jump in on a regular basis. And the hype would be met for the most part. It wasn't always perfect. It wasn't always great. Not every dunk contest is going to be perfect or great or exciting or fun or live up to the hype. That's never the case. The dunk contest has always been a boom or bust thing. It's always been it's okay. It doesn't live up to expectations. And then people have years where it's great and then it's unbelievable. It's up and down, right? But I think one of the things that would fix it is if somebody came out of their uncomfortable shoes, and they said, hey, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put on a show. I'm going to make it happen. But there's no incentive to go out and hype the crowd with the top players in the game in regards to their ability to dunk the basketball and put on a show for the fans. There's no incentive. And there has never been one. And with the way players and the league and everything kind of runs and self-annualizes itself all the time regarding the paycheck, and with how more and more, spoiled these players get, the less and less they're likely to show out and put together something that's extracurricular for the fans. And when that becomes the case, we as fans lose that opportunity. So Obi Toppin winning the dunk contest over the weekend wasn't something that was necessarily terrible. Twitter's going to sit there and tell you it was the worst dunk contest of all time. It was pretty bad. But Obi Toppin's dunk, his behind the back, grab the basketball, jump over somebody dunk, was actually a very memorable signature dunk for this entire dunk contest. Years from now, most people are going to say that was one of the worst dunk contests of all time, 2022. People are going to say 2017's was really bad. People are going to say, I think 2014's or around that time period. There have been some bad dunk contests over the last 10 years. And when you look at the overarching conversation of what the dunk contest has been, there's only sprinkles of great ones over the last 20 years. There really has only been. And the reason being is because the stars aren't there. But at the same time, the other rationale is because for a constant thing and a constant theme is the hype about dunk contests is about what's the storylines coming in. And there's never really been one because all it is young guys, right? Kobe Bryant competed when he was a rookie. Vince Carter competed in his second or third year in the league. People forget about that. A lot of guys who've ever competed in the dunk contest really going the last 25, 30 years have not been the full-fledged superstars in the league. I mean, the last time we had full-fledged superstars competing in the dunk contest was back in the 80s, early 90s. That was the last time we had that. Ever since then, the incentive and the opportunity to do so has completely shifted. So what's fascinating to me is if fans want to sit there and complain and get upset and not like the dunk contest, what they should be doing is pinpointing it back to the players and saying, how come you've had no incentive to come out and represent and your skills and your excitement for the game on All-Star Saturday night, the capper of the night, with no full-fledged superstars out there to come out and represent the conversation piece in regards to who's going to be, who's going to be the names, who's going to be the players to, hype up the entire league for its grand stage before the All-Star game. And that's the question that needs to be asked. There needs to be a better incentive package for that. And I think if there was an opportunity, I think it would bring the dunk contest back. And I think the dunk contest would then ultimately be the grand stage of everything. If we started having guys like LeBron in there, if we had guys like Ja Morant in there, if we had guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo in there, if we had guys, you keep naming these athletic specimens who are in the game right now as the best players in basketball. If we had them in the dunk contest, the guys that we can just point off the top of our head as being the guys in the dunk contest, it would bring everything back. They don't have to be there every year. Look at the three-point contest. Karl Anthony Towns won it this year. We obviously know the rookies won the skills contest. Those contests are fine. The skills contest is fine. It's actually really interesting this year. It was really fun to watch. Obviously, they fixed the rookie challenge, the rookie and sophomore challenge. They fixed that. It's a lot better now. The 3-point contest has really been the same thing forever. It's always been fun. It's always been a great, prior event to the dunk contest. But now the 3-point contest has been so much better because the actual stars, the best shooters in the game, actually want to compete and showcase their skills. Steph Curry doesn't have to be there every single year to be a great event. Steph Curry has never had to always be there every single year for it to be a fantastic, phenomenal event. It's been great because all the best players, the best shooters in the game want to do it because it's an easy thing to do. It's what they do all the time. So the thing that has to happen now for the dunk contest is there has to be a better incentive package. There has to be a sponsorship package. There has to be a money incentive. There has to be something attached to making the dunk contest more appeasable for guys who are at that higher stage of their career and some of the best players in the game who we know would make the dunk contest insane. It doesn't have to be Ja Morant every single year. It doesn't have to be Giannis Antetokounmpo or LeBron James or anybody like that. You can have Devin Booker in there one year. I mean, you can have guys who are in the prime of their careers right now, putting together phenomenal efforts, being in the dunk contest. It doesn't have to be the same guys every single year to be fun. It can be a mixture of 4 to 5 guys every year who are at a high peak point in their career, who've had incredible dunks, who should be in the dunk contest. That's just how it should be. And not every single superstar should be the relevant conversation piece regarding a dunk contest, right? We all know that not every single superstar should be there every single year. It's going to be different years for different players for different reasons. Paul George back in the day, he had some incredible dunks. He would have had an incredible dunk competition show out. He never was in one. And if he was, it was very, very, very early in his career when nobody knew who he was. Same with Blake Griffin. Nobody knew who Blake Griffin. I mean, everybody knew who he was coming out of Oklahoma, and that's why it was one of the more hyped dunk contests. Same with Aaron Gordon. Same with Zach LaVine. Those guys had prior instances where they were in the conversation. We all wanted to see a guy like Zion Williamson be in the dunk contest. Everybody wanted to see Zion get in the dunk contest. Obviously, he's been hurt. Obviously, all that. But Zion would have been incredible in the dunk contest. But obviously, we never got the opportunity. So you've got to have the right names in place. You can't just have these random guys coming in who we may or may not ever hear of or ever want to see, etc. You've got to have the guys in place to represent for the dunk contest to be special again. And if it's not the case, then it's just going to be this second tier final thing of the night where we just sit there and say, okay, is it going to be good this year or not? Just kind of letting you get out of the prisoner of the moment. This year's dunk contest has necessarily not been the worst dunk contest there's been. There have been some bad ones over the last 10 years. There have been some really bad ones. And to be honest with you, they've been so bad that it turns to a point where does this need to be a secondary event in the All-Star Saturday night event? The 3-point contest looks like to be the contest where you got to sit back and say that's the one that everybody wants to show up and watch because all of the best players at what they're doing that year need to be in it. The 3-point contest is really now the home run derby of the NBA. It really is. It's the guys who are having the best 3-point years are the ones that need to show up and be the final event for All-Star Saturday night. That's the way it should be. And it's not hating on the dunk contest, because I personally love the dunk contest the most out of all the events because it's so exciting when it's done well. But overall, we can't just sit here and all of a sudden say that the 3-point contest isn't special for no reason at all. I mean, the 3-point contest, in all reality, has been the most exciting event at the All-Star Game because it's had the best players, and it's had the most excitement. It's had the most pressure for the best players. That's where you get the storylines and the excitement, and the best players getting their nod and all those other things. And that's where you start to see the differentiating of everything else. So it's a long time coming. The 3-point contest needs to be the premier event. Okay, the All-Star Game itself was fantastic. Down the stretch, Steph Curry, 50 points. Joel Embiid at 36 and 10. I mean, there was some phenomenal efforts, great flashes of brilliance in regards to guys like John Morant and obviously Giannis, and LeBron James had his game winner, winning 163 to 160. I thought this was one of the better All-Star games we've seen. The excitement, the guys coming out having a good time, everything involved. I thought that the Inside Crew did a great job on their side of the broadcast. I thought Kevin Harlan did a great job. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really, really well done, put together All-Star game. Nothing to be set in stone saying that it was, a poor effort by any team. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun to watch. I thought the final quarter where they put together the end score, what was it, the target score of 162 or 163 or whatever. It's just brilliant. Seeing both teams come out playing defense the final portions of the game, that part of the All-Star game for these last couple of years being put together has been the absolute crown on top of the cake regarding watching the game itself. I mean, me as a fan, I don't mind watching them have fun and run around and do silly things for the first 3 quarters, but that final quarter, when everybody comes together and plays tough-nosed defense, plays hard, puts out full effort, and does everything that they can to really put on a real show on both ends of the court, that to me is what the All-Star game should be about. And when I see that every fourth quarter, it really, really makes me appreciate this new format they've put together, because it really allows for us to see guys down the stretch playing hard in an All-Star game where, let's be honest, they don't need to be playing that hard the whole game, but it puts the new incentive on playing hard in the fourth quarter, and they're doing it for the spirit of Kobe Bryant. And that's the best part, is they're doing it to allow for both teams to put their best foot forth and really playing hard and really, putting on a show for the purist of the basketball fan. And I tell you what, they have brought the All-Star game back in regards to its importance to the league and its importance to the fan. And I got to give the NBA a lot of props in that regard, because for a long time there, the All-Star game was looking like an absolute clown show, and nobody was really caring at all from one end to from the beginning to the end. It got bad, but something happened after Kobe Bryant passed away when they put on that final portion of the game where everybody comes out and plays hard. And I think that's going to be a staple for the All-Star game for years to come, for down the stretch, because it is absolutely brilliant watching all of the top 20 players in the game come out and play their absolute ass off to beat one another in a basketball game that really, frankly, doesn't matter. But to see everybody play hard to get to that final portion of the ending portion of the game, it's magnificent. It's stunning. It's stoic. It's what the All-Star game should be, and that's exactly what they've finally gotten to, and very, very big props to the NBA for getting it right. And they've finally got it right over these years to finally get it to a point where now the All-Star game is a must-watch again. And frankly, I think it's back to being the best All-Star game of all the All-Star games. I mean, you watched the Pro Bowl a couple weeks ago; it was absolute trash. The MLB All-Star game's always been phenomenal, but let's be honest, the pitching's so dominant now that it's really, really hard to watch because there's not a whole lot of offense, and pitchers aren't just going to go out and pitch 70%. They're all going to go out and throw 100% and throw 100 miles an hour and just really fool hitters. So it's tougher to watch because there's not a lot of offense. But the All-Star game in the NBA, I think, fulfills every single fan's fantasy in regards to the final portion of the game, because you get to watch all guys come out and play their absolute maximum effort in the final, 24 points of the game, which is brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. So I feel like they got it right in that regard. But here we are. the final stretch run of the NBA regular season, I had to get my point outs for the state of the NBA. There's a bunch of storylines coming down the stretch now where we have firm names in the conversation for who's MVP and who's going to be the representative coming out of both conferences. And there's a lot to figure out down the stretch. And I'll be honest with you, with where the state of the league is, I am so excited and so happy to pronounce to you the Dear Hooper's Log today. Dear Hooper's Log. The league down the stretch has 3 legitimate names in the MVP race right now. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And all 3, frankly, over the last 3 or 4 years have been in the conversation, if not won the award, but have been close to getting the award. Joel Embiid would have won it last year if he didn't get hurt. Jokic won it last year for obvious reasons, and Giannis Antetokounmpo won it the previous 2 years for obvious reasons. The MVP award is at the best point it can possibly be because whoever wins it this year is well-deserved because all 3 of them have been playing phenomenal. Kevin Durant got hurt. Steph Curry has not had a phenomenal year, but he's definitely in the conversation for a first-team All-NBAer. LeBron James is obviously still always floating around the narrative, but all in all, the Eastern Conference has a ton to figure out down the stretch. People are talking about the Brooklyn Nets. They're getting Goran Dragic. There's a whole lot of things going on with the Nets, right? They've got a lot of pieces to figure out. They've got a lot of chemistry to work on and get pumped. Obviously, the narrative with Kyrie Irving is still floating out there regarding what's going to happen with the vaccine conversation. You've got Ben Simmons coming back from not playing for the entire year to now playing with a new roster. They've got a whole new kit and caboodle of players there in Brooklyn. And that's even before KD gets back. Who knows what's going to happen with Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets when they are fully ready to go? I don't know. It's a very similar conversation in Philadelphia, and I brought it up in the last episode with their identity. They have to form an identity here over the next 6 to 7 weeks, or else come playoff time, they're going to fizzle. And it's nothing to do with Joel Embiid. It has everything to do with everyone else. Knowing that they got James Harden and he's coming back healthy, knowing that they've got that new roster, knowing that they've got a new construction, it's going to be something to look forward to and see as it plays out. Miami, with one of the greatest coaches of all time in Eric Spoelstra, they've got a roster and a unit that can prove that they can go to a championship. Giannis Antetokounmpo right now is looking like the best player on the planet, and it's very, very hard to debate. There's no knock on Kevin Durant because he got hurt, it's very hard to sit back and say one way or the other. But I think right now, overall, you can say Embiid's the MVP. I have Embiid as the MVP right now, but nobody is going to rip anybody in thinking that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the MVP because he looks like the absolute best player on the planet. They could come out and represent the East as well. The Bulls, the unknown Bulls, DeMar DeRozan, the best mid-range player in the game right now. You've got Zach LaVine coming into his own, turning into an all-star. You've got a bunch of other players on that team showing out. Cleveland, really the underdog, the out of nowhere, the dark horse, really a team that is unexpected to really be there. There's a lot of conversation going on in the league in the Eastern Conference on what to expect, and I have no idea what's going to come out of what looking like right now. The only team I know for certain from a cemented perspective is that the Milwaukee Bucks are the team to beat out east. There is nobody out east that is the favorite outside of them right now, and I do not care what the seeding looks like. They are the defending champs. They have the best player on the world right now healthy. They have a team that knows what they're doing. They are the favorites, in my opinion, out east. I am not sitting here and saying it's a full-fledged guarantee, but out of all the teams out east right now, they are in the conversation, and they are the front runner for being the back-to-back Eastern Conference champ. I'm not saying that they're going to do it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. But by the way things look right now and how unknown and how who knows what's going to happen after the All-Star break, because like I said, in the next episode of the Hooper's Log, we're going to break down who had the best records in February for the top teams in the East and in the West. And that narrative is going to ring true for the rest of the year. I think whoever has the best February will be in the conversation as a team who will be the representative for potentially their given conferences. The Western Conference, I still think, is a two-horse race. Phoenix and Golden State, you can definitely make the case if Memphis makes a run and stays level-headed with a team like Golden State, that they're a third dark horse team in the conversation of the Western Conference. Obviously, Utah, obviously with, Luka Doncic playing the way he's playing, Jokic playing the way he's playing for Denver. You've got those potential players who could help and boost their teams. But when you look at the West, it's a lot more filtered out. The East is something where I have no idea. We really have to pay attention here moving forward down the stretch of the season to see what the conversation is. And I think March 1st, when we have our next episode on episode 24 next week, we're going to have a big discussion regarding who had the best February, going through the trade deadline, going through injuries, going through the changes, the All-Star break, the get up and restart, the chemistry rebuild. There's a lot of things in February that can test a team's overall fortitude for what they are. And I think the NBA is in such a fantastic spot right now where there's no guarantee coming out of the East. The only thing we know is that a hardened team like the Bucks are really the only favorites that we can really talk about. But then there's the mystique of the Nets, of the 76ers, of the Bulls and the unknown there, and the dark horse of the Cavs. There's those four teams that we sit back and say, we just don't know. We just don't know. And that's exciting. That is so exciting to have. And in the Western Conference, like I said, there's a good 3, potentially 4 teams that we could sit back and say they can all test, Phoenix and Golden State. There's a couple other teams outside of those 2 teams that can test those teams moving forward. It's a big thing for the NBA. It is huge to have that kind of situation and narrative playing out coming into April. Because when we get into April, that's when everything, all hands on deck, put all your chips on the table. That's when we all know when the best come out to play. And May is when the best players in the world show up and play their absolute best basketball. That's when we know what's real. And I just think that we're building towards a May that's going to be one of the most memorable in really the last decade of basketball, because really, with the Cavs and Warriors and what they did for 5-6 years, that was just tough overall. And then with what Kawhi did, that was an exciting time as well, especially in the Eastern Conference. And then what happened with the COVID thing and the bubble and the Miami Heat, that was obviously fun, but from a different perspective. And then this past year, with Giannis getting through Brooklyn, getting through the Hawks, obviously getting through Phoenix, and Phoenix doing what they did in the West. Last year was great, but obviously it wasn't a full 82-game season. Now we're finally back to a full 82-game season, a regular year, an actual regular season with regularity back into it. And the playoffs will open up with teams and players ready to get to a regular ending to a season. And it's without the hyperbolic, the hyperbole of, well, the regular season is just more of a formality to get to the playoffs. I think the regular season, I know it's mostly dead in regards to guys taking it seriously, but in regards to teams like the Cavs, like the Bulls, like the Memphis Grizzlies, those kind of teams that are building their way, turning into a potentially big-time force for moving forward in their, in their franchises, attempt and pursuit at getting a championship, they are making the regular season important, and that is a big thing for where the NBA is moving forward to get back to some kind of semblance of what they were doing at some point early on in the 2010s. Back in the 2010s, the regular season was very important for building what you wanted to do getting towards the playoffs, and I think certain teams, like the teams I just mentioned, are building on something where if they get to the playoffs and they make serious runs in the postseason to go deep, teams that normally don't feel like they have a chance will take the regular season seriously, come into the playoffs with full-blown confidence and chemistry, and they may make deep runs and put confidence into every other team who haven't done anything and say, hey, the regular season matters. Just because you don't have the preseason hype or because you don't have the talent doesn't mean you can't come out and win 40 to 45 games, make it interesting, and give yourself a shot at going to the playoffs. I think that the way that those teams who have come out of nowhere, making the regular season important, if they can make deep runs in the playoffs, they will then put, again, some credence and credibility back into the regular season. That is what the NBA needs. The state of the NBA is that nobody cares about the regular season. Nobody takes it seriously who are championship contenders. Looking at the way the Bucks have taken place over the last however many years, looking at the Phoenix Suns and what they've done over the last couple of years, looking at what the Golden State Warriors have done over the last however many years, looking at what other teams have done, like the Bulls, like the Grizzlies, like the Cavs. Look, I mean, recently, like this past year, these are the kind of situations where we sit back and we say, thank God, because the regular season needs some kind of kick in the pants. And those kind of teams are what's making the league more valuable again in regards to the conversation of the regular season, because we all know prior to these last couple of years, the regular season was simply a formality for the Cavs and the Warriors. And thank God we are getting back to some semblance of what the NBA at one point was supposed to be, which was supposed to be a grinded out, tough, brutal, scintillating, narrative-driven, players developing the narrative conversation pieces to what the regular season was supposed to bring to us for the postseason. We are finally getting back to a point where that is getting back to the way it used to be. And my God, it has taken so long to do so that we can finally sit back and enjoy the regular season before we actually get to the postseason and just dread what we've seen in the regular season. I can't tell you enough. I've been doing this for 8 years. This is really since back in 2014, 2015, the first year I did this. This has been a regular season where I can sit back and say, I can really tell you, it hasn't just been a formality. It has been a legitimate conversation of saying, wow, we are actually watching a regular season that may impact what happens in the postseason. And it's been really, this is the first time I've said that since, for a regular year, not 2020 and not 2019, 2020, not this past year where it was 72 games. This is the first time for a regular season that I've sat back and said, oh my God, we actually have a regular season that matters. And it's huge, because I said last year the regular season was dead. I said the regular season was a formality. Certain guys, certain teams, certain organizations are still taking it that way and treating it that way as for, boom or bust. Let's just kind of get into the regular season, see what happens, and we'll figure it out. There are teams who are saying, nuh-uh, we're done with that. The Bulls are one of them teams. The Memphis Grizzlies are one of them teams. They're done with being an average roster. They're taking that next step and being a top 4 seed in the West. That's a big deal for the regular season and its credibility. Now the goal is for teams like that to run deep into the playoffs and make serious runs and serious headway to then now prove to other teams down the stretch, down the road, that the regular season matters. We need those teams for the sake of the importance and the credibility of the regular season. We need teams like the Bulls, like the Grizzlies, like the Utah Jazz, like teams like that who have great regular seasons, who come out and put everything they can on the line for a regular season, to then go deep into the playoffs, have it happen, not have the laid-back talent. Not to say Kevin Durant's not a laid-back talent. He is an absolute monster with the basketball. We all know Kevin Durant's the best player in basketball when healthy. I'm not sitting here and denying that. But we need to stop having the narrative of, oh, because it's LeBron James, the regular season doesn't matter. Oh, because Kevin Durant's hurt, he'll come back in April, he'll make it happen, the regular season doesn't matter. Oh, Chris Paul's out for 6 to 8 weeks, which we all just heard the news during the AllStar game. The regular season doesn't matter. We need that narrative to disappear. Guys like Kawhi Leonard, who we knew when he eventually got healthy for the Raptors in 2019, that if he got healthy, he would help the Raptors get to a championship, and voila, it happened. Right? We need that narrative to die. And for the state of the NBA, for the situation they're in right now, we need that to die. We need the talent to stop overcompensating and overtaking what the league's hard work is trying to put together. And that's teams like Memphis, that's teams like Chicago, and that's teams like Cleveland. We need the hard work to overtake the talent. For the love of God, for the regular season, we need that to be the case. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you again for listening, everybody. I hope you had a great listen on this show. I'll see you next week, March 1st. We're going to talk about that very thing. We're going to talk about the situation in the month of February regarding all of the top teams, where they are, where we are, seeing and hopefully, comparing who had the best records in the month of February and seeing where that lands regarding what they will do moving forward as we move through the month of March, along with what that means and how they might present themselves in the playoffs. Thanks again for listening, everybody. I'll see you next week on the 1st of March. Have a good one.